Good morning. My name is Edward Pace. I am running for the 4th District, and let's just give you a little bit of biographical information about me. I grew up here in Kansas City. I've spent all my life, childhood and early adulthood life especially, on the east side of Kansas City, 55th Wabash, 4903 Woodland. We spent some time in TV Watkins, Parker Square. I spent some time off of Independence Avenue. And these are some of the most challenged neighborhoods in the community. And so I understand intimately the plight of the people living in those communities. We want to have candidates out here who understand firsthand what it's like to live in these conditions.
16, okay, all right. So being the 16th person here on this panel today, I don't really need to think about what I need to say. What I need to say is what you need to say. All I need to do is amplify your voices as your public servant. That is my job. That is my responsibility. And when your voice is amplified, this is what happens. You have needs that need to be articulated. You have wants, you have desires, you have an expectation for your public servant, from your public servants, of your public servants. And when they are not meeting your expectations, what do? You become apathetic. You become disenchanted. You go back home and you sit down and you say, there's no need for me to get involved in electoral politics. There's no need for me to be concerned about what's happening in my city, what our government officials are doing, even though it affects our lives directly or indirectly. But that's not the case, really. We need to start energizing and mobilizing people, everyday working people. Everyday working people need to be a part of this process. That's a democracy, not this right here. Your government officials don't really make up your democracy. You do. People coming together and exercising their political power. That's a democracy, and that's what we need to do. We need to get back to the basics. We can talk about economic development, we can talk about crime, we can talk about all these other issues, but until we deal with the #1 pressing issue, 7% turnout, 30% turnout, nobody's coming out to the polls to vote, whoa, how can we possibly have a healthy democracy? It is very ill, it is very sick. We need to go to a physician who's going to correctly identify our symptoms. And then, if you look under my platform, PACE, my last name is the acronym, Public Safety, Accountability, Community Building, and Education. And under Community, you will see the letters UNITY underlined, emphasized. We have to unify our neighborhoods. We have all kinds of things going on in the community, right? But that doesn't mean that these are isolated incidents. That doesn't mean that these are, even though they're unique and specific to each community, but it doesn't mean that what goes on over here does not affect what goes on over there. Just because we have a dividing line that says all those who are low-income families live on this side of truth, that we don't have to be concerned about what's going on the opposite side of truth. Well, I think that attitude needs to change without a doubt. And you know, I talk about the dysfunctionality of the system, not to beat up on our city council people, but you know, if we don't talk correctly about the problem and speak frankly, then how are we ever going to deal with the problem? How are we ever going to address the real issue at hand? You know, I visited with, I had the privilege of visiting with several members of the West Plaza Association, and they have their needs. You know, the Highwoods and whatever else is going on over there, right? And you know, each neighborhood has its own particular issues that it wants to address.
Interdiction. Yeah, that's a very powerful word, and I think we need to use it more often when we talk about drug problems here in the city, but in the state. We have to look at, one, if we're going to talk about drugs and dealing with the drug issues, we have to talk about it honestly. We have to use language that is confrontational, language that's politically incorrect. Oftentimes we talk about drug dealers. Who are the drug dealers? We know we've racialized crime here in the city. We know what a criminal looks like, especially a criminal engaged in these particular kinds of activities. Look at disproportionate number of minority, black, young people who are incarcerated for drug offenses. They are 4 times more likely to have a police officer stop and arrest them for drug offenses, where it has been statistically proven by the Bureau of Justice Statistics that a white child in another neighborhood is 10 times more likely to have drugs on his person. So I think we have to really start correctly talking about this issue and be politically incorrect when talking about it. So we can't lock our way up, by the way. We can't lock our way out of this problem.